Liam Lawson has started his defence on the Red Bull seat as he expressed his true feelings regarding him being replaced by Tsunoda. Although we thought that his humbleness has gone down, it seems the other way around, and with Liam now being pushed up against the wall, how will the situation unfold in Red Bull? And more importantly, what is Liam's future holding up like now that Colapinto has been involved in the talks with Racing Bulls? The situation in Red Bull has been quite mystical in the past couple of days, especially after the Chinese GP. The P20 qualification result of Lawson for both the sprint and the main race event goes to show that there is a lot of disappointment among the F1 world when it comes to the expectations from the Kiwi driver. This is why an urgent meeting will be held in Milton Keynes, one in which the primary topic would be the future of the Red Bull drivers, as well as hiring an outside one like Colapinto. But all of these talks have made Lawson enter a defensive mode, especially when it comes to borrowing his seat to Tsunoda in order to prove the point that the Japanese driver was the one who was supposed to get the promotion. According to Liam, it wasn't truly up to the standards when it came to Yuki's performance as well, and when talking about it, he said, "Tsunoda can say what he wants, to be honest. I raced against him for years in the junior categories and I beat him, and I did that in F1 as well. He can say what he wants, but it's obviously extremely tough. It's not something I enjoy, and I am honestly working as hard as I can. You can't feel sympathy in this sport. I was teammates with him in F3 and I beat him. In Euro Formula, I was teammates with him in New Zealand and I beat him there. And then in F1 last season, I think honestly, if I look at all the times he got promoted instead of me in those early years, then no, he doesn't deserve the promotion. He's had his time, now it's my time." This is quite a brave statement from a man who is yet to enter Q2 in his Red Bull career, as it's quite obvious that the Kiwi driver is under a lot of scrutiny for the performance he's shown so far. On the other hand, had it not been for the miserable tactics that Tsunoda's team applied to his race, he would have likely had a lot more points than those 3 he scored during the sprint race. Therefore, Red Bull will have a lot to think about during this emergency meeting, but one thing is for sure, Lawson won't give up on his seat that easily. By this statement, he has shown that the situation is far more intense than maybe we could have imagined, because he is already feeling the pressure, something that can be seen throughout his statements in public. On the other hand, Tsunoda has ignited the fire by stating that he is here to win and that his results show everything. And when talking about whether or not he can jump in the Red Bull as early as in Japan, his home race, Yuki said, "Yeah, why not? I am always ready. In Japan, yeah, 100%. I mean, their car is faster." This is when he got pulled back by a Racing Bulls employee, and it was quite obvious that these matters would be talked about behind closed doors. But with both of the drivers now stating their true feelings in public, we can conclude one thing: the second seat question is far from over. Yuki is the driver who needs to prove to the rest of the world that he can be who we believe he can, and who Red Bull struggles to come to acceptance with. Therefore, with all the options on the table, is the driver really the problem, or is the car something that needs to be worked on properly before we can actually make a judgment about the second driver? According to Christian Horner, there is a lot of controversy revolving around the RB21 because Verstappen likes it in a very specific way, and that means the other driver is going to have a lot of struggles going forward with understanding its basic principle of work. This means that if the team is to bring either Tsunoda or maybe Hajar, a name that has been mentioned by Marco after the Chinese GP, as a potential replacement, the solution is far from found. They would have to adapt to a beast that Lawson, a driver who has experience in DTM and Super Formula as well, failed to do. Elaborating further on this, Horner said, "Max is quite specific in what he wants from a car to make it fast, and that is generally a very positive front end on the car, a very sharp turn-in. Of course, the consequence of that is that it will unsettle the rear of the car, and that for a driver is tremendously sapping if you've got a loose rear end on this car on entry into corners. So that is where he excels. That's where he's able to live on a knife's edge of adhesion. This is why we believe that Tsunoda, while being extremely good at racing bulls, might have tons of problems in the adapting process with the RB21. True, he has had a lot of confidence and he is a far more seasoned driver than Lawson, but on the other hand, he is yet to fully recover from the radio outbursts and the silly mistakes that were also present last year. However, Marco praised the performance of Tsunoda and said that he matured to a great extent compared to where he was, potentially hinting that he might be be the leader when it comes to the Red Bull seat as early as Japan. When talking about this, the 81-year-old said, "Yuki changed his management and has been performing absolutely top-notch so far. He is in the form of his life and has made another quantum leap this year. Yuki is a different Yuki from the years before. He is more mature. It took a while, but now it looks like it's working." But a very interesting fact that put a lot of pressure on Tsunoda is the statement that Marco made regarding Isaac Hajar, the rookie that he thought put on an embarrassing show after the poor mistake during the formation lap in Melbourne. Now, when Hajar bounced back heavily in China and reached Q3 in the main race's qualifications while being on pace to score points before his team also messed up the strategy, the statements from Marco have changed drastically. The special advisor of Red Bull had a lot of praise for the young Frenchman, and when talking about him, he went on to compare his times with Tsunoda, further stating, "Let's look at the positive. Isaac Hajar, who has never driven on this track before, is setting incredible times in his second race, making no mistakes. Yuki is right behind him, but Yuki is in his 5th season while Isaac is completely new, and then he sets such a time. So far, what he has shown is absolutely fascinating. In Australia, his performance was also sensational until the accident. It's happened to others. The sun and the shadow are close together, and we'll see what happens." But again, we are returning to one pivotal point when it comes to the performance of the second driver in Red Bull, the behaviour of the car. There is no hiding that the RB21 is a very difficult beast to tame, and that has been mentioned by Verstappen as well. So at this point, you need to ask yourself one question: is the second seat in Red Bull a blessing or a curse at this point of their existence? From what we can see, it looks like it's more of a curse, because apart from Ricciardo, there hasn't been any driver out there who was able to challenge Max in the same machinery. This is why doubts have been raised about Tsunoda, but it's also interesting that Max is reportedly not very keen on having a new teammate, and he would much rather have his team work on the car rather than the driver next to him. This goes to show that even the 4-time world champion isn't happy with where the team is moving right now and what their primary focus is. And when talking about the performance of Lawson, he didn't shy away to say that the Kiwi driver would be much better in racing bulls than Red Bull, further stating, "If you look at the difference between the two drivers and the other teams, they are all closer together. It also shows that our car is extremely tough. I think if you put Liam in the Racing Bulls car, he will go faster. I really think so. That car is easier to drive than ours. I also noticed that when I talked to Liam. Last year, I didn't think the difference between him and Yuki Tsunoda was that big. Otherwise, the team wouldn't have made the choice to put him in at Red Bull either." Although Lawson went on to disagree with Verstappen, the situation is loud and clear. A replacement should be on its way, and this will be discussed in the following week in Milton Keynes. With all this in mind, who do you think would be the best choice to replace Lawson? And more importantly, do you think that Red Bull can find its groove by having Tsunoda as their driver from Japan onwards? Let us know in the comments below, and if you want to find out more about the development of these events, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.